Hello and welcome to the CSN3M Mindset Monday podcast. I'm Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on the three M's: mindsets, myth busting, and mentoring, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. On today's episode of CSN3M, we will be discussing the 5 fingers of strategic intervention. Now, I cannot personally take credit for this. This is something that Tony Robbins outlines and discusses in multiple places. He has YouTube videos on it, but he also has a training called the Robbins Madonnas Training for Health Coaching and Self-Betterment. And in it, they call it the Hand of Strategic Intervention. And I think it's a really neat concept, and I wanted to share it with everybody today, just as a quick way to start your week and maybe change your mindset, because it's kind of a fun way to think about how you're going in terms of your direction and your aspirations. So this week, I want you to use your hand to drive your goals and your way forward. And so when we look at our hand, we have our thumb. And your thumb is your emotional state. And so I want you to first start by evaluating your emotional state. And that is a really, really important baseline, because if we're not in the right mindset, change is going to be harder and harder. So we need to assess our emotional state. And the emotional state should be in regards to whatever we're trying to work on this week. And so if we have a goal this week, whether it be a professional goal, a personal goal, a social goal, we want to basically first start by assessing how we feel about that item. The next finger on your hand is your pointer finger. That's going to note your direction. And so we want to use that pointer finger to note where we're trying to go, right? So for this goal or aspiration you're working on, what are you trying to accomplish? Where are you trying to go? What's the direction that you're trying to go with it? We then have our middle finger, which the middle is always our center of focus. And so the middle finger stands for focus. Once we know where we're going, we need to establish what we're going to focus on that's going to represent that and then also lead us there, right? So what are the metrics we're going to use to establish that focus and keep us focused? Our next finger is that ring finger, and the ring is an important note because that is the relationships. And what we want to establish is who are the people that you're going to work with, or who are the people that are involved in this goal of yours. And so we want to make sure we have a good idea of who we're surrounded by and who we're going to pair up with and utilize for resource and accountability. And then last but not least, we have our pinky. And our pinky is the smallest of our fingers on our hand, and we are going to use the smallest thing as a way to symbolize the smallest thing that we can do, that small change that you can make that's going to make the biggest impact going forward. Just one change. And so once you've done that, you have your hand of strategic intervention, but more importantly, you've developed out a very well-balanced process and goal that's going to have those SMART qualities, right? That specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-sensitive scenario. So this week, let's use our hand, the hand of strategic intervention, as Tony Robbins calls it, to identify what we're trying to work on, what we're trying to do. And then once we figure out what we're trying to do, let's establish our emotional state of that and decide if that emotional state is helpful or hurtful, and consider alternative emotional states. If we're scared or frustrated, would we instead feel better if we were, feeling persistent or optimistic? Would we instead feel better if we were feeling neutral emotionally and had less expectations, for example? So let's establish that emotional state. Let's then use that pointer finger to establish where we're trying to go, what the goal is. So let's set our sights on what we're trying to accomplish. Use that middle finger to then focus in on the path that's going to get us there. And use the ring finger to connect with the people that are going to be supporting of that path. And then last but not least, pick that starting point. Use that pinky finger, that smallest thing, that starting point that we can do to get the path in process. This is a short and sweet idea. It's a really neat concept, but the most important thing I would note to all of you out there listening is it only works if you actually take the time to do it. And so I would challenge all of you to take 10 minutes on this Monday to identify something you want to accomplish over the course of the next 5 days? What do you want to do by Friday for yourself personally, professionally, emotionally? Identify one thing. If you're feeling invigorated, I would challenge you to pick something in each category. What do you want to do personally? What do you want to do professionally? What do you want to do emotionally? And what do you want to do spiritually? How do we want to progress? Because each day and each week is an opportunity to improve ourselves in some way, in a positive way, whether it be by becoming more motivated or for some people potentially becoming more flexible. But first we need to identify it. And once we identify it, use your hand to outline your pathway forward. And then with that pathway forward, assess at the end of the week and reset and go forward again. It's a really, really simple method to keep yourself in tune. I would encourage you to journal it, especially if you're doing multiple, if you're going after your personal and professional and emotional and spiritual. You want to identify these because each week you're going to pick a new pinky item and you'll be adjusting your updates in emotional state, your updates in your direction and your focus, and then also updating the relationships as they develop, right? All things have incremental steps and progress. And in that incremental phase of change, we know that all things will develop alongside our process. So let's make sure we keep in tune with it and use that to over the next week and then the next month to allow yourself to find some success in something that you've been postponing or putting off or delaying or ignoring that continues to nudge you and bother you and we know could be a really valuable thing for you. So for those of you out there, I hope you accept the challenge to use that strategic hand to your personal benefit. And I would encourage you to share this podcast with someone that you want to use as the pinky finger in this strategic intervention, perhaps someone that might want to pair up with you and do an intervention of their own. And share this podcast with them. And don't forget to hashtag spread the health. Please feel free to share on social media. I'd like to thank you as always for listening to this podcast. I will be excited for anyone who wants to tag us in their 5-fingered approach to strategic intervention, what they're working on, what they're doing, and keep us posted, whether it be on social media or by contacting us through our website, casespecificnutrition.com. Please take all of this as a positive opportunity to help self in a good way. And we hope to help support you on this journey. We will be back next week with another CSN3M Mindset Monday.